welcome. Let's unpack some truly fascinating discussions happening around a particular digital asset, XRP, and its potential future value.
Mm.
There's a lot of buzz, some pretty ambitious predictions, and a really vibrant debate going on.
It's definitely an exciting time to look at these assets. And what's so interesting here is just how diverse the opinions can be.
Right?
And, how different factors get weighed when people try to figure out future valuations in this space. It's evolving so quickly.
Absolutely. It feels like you have this mix of like groundbreaking potential and, let's be honest, quite a bit of speculation too.
Exactly. Utility meets spirited discussion, you could say.
Yeah. And you've given us some excellent material that presents two very distinct viewpoints on where XRP might be headed. So our mission today is to try and cut through some of that noise.
Okay.
We want to break down both sides of these arguments so you can walk away well-informed, regardless of your starting point with digital assets. It's really about understanding the arguments, the evidence, not just getting lost in the big numbers.
Makes sense. Focusing on the why behind the numbers.
Precisely. Okay, so let's jump right into one of the talked about predictions, the one that really sparked a lot of this conversation. It's the idea of XRP potentially hitting a huge milestone, $1,000 per token.
Right. The $1,000 XRP, it's definitely a figure that grabs attention.
It really does. And it's fueled so much enthusiasm in the community.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, proponents often link that lofty target to XRP's proposed utility, the idea of it revolutionizing cross-border payments.
Explain that a bit more, the bridge asset idea.
Sure. So the vision is pretty grand. It sees XRP as a pivotal player in the global financial system, essentially acting as a bridge asset for financial infrastructure.
Okay.
What that means is XRP could theoretically allow for rapid, cheap conversion between different fiat currencies, say yen into XRP, then immediately into US dollars.
Bypassing the old systems.
Exactly, bypassing the traditional correspondent banking networks, which can be slow and expensive. So it makes international transactions potentially much, much more efficient.
Got it.
And that potential role is what really fuels these ambitious projections. We've even seen reports, early proponents mentioning $1,000 as almost a conservative target, a bear target, if XRP fulfills that role.
Wow, even as a bear target.
That was the speculation reported, yeah. And it's not just institutional views. I remember seeing discussion from community members foreseeing intense demand if it hit that level. People scrambling just to own one XRP.
That paints a really vivid picture, almost transformative for finance. So that belief in its core utility, the payment solution part, that's the main driver for these big visions.
It seems to be a huge part of it, yes. The belief in that fundamental use case.
But, thinking beyond the vision, what are the big hurdles, the real-world obstacles? It can't be a completely smooth path to that kind of dominance, surely.
Oh, absolutely not. That's a crucial point. I mean, yes, the arguments for efficiency, speed, cost-effectiveness are strong, but think about it.
Yeah.
You've got massive regulatory hurdles differing across every country, intense competition from the systems already in place, plus other digital assets trying to do similar things.
Right, it's crowded.
Very. Becoming the global standard, that's incredibly challenging. It needs huge infrastructure shifts, broad institutional buy-in. It's a long, complex road.
Okay, so that sets the stage for the ambition. But while many are excited about $1,000, not everyone's convinced. Our sources also bring forward a very clear, maybe even undeniable argument against it. And this one relies heavily on just math, straightforward market economics.
Indeed. There was a prominent voice in the community who recently argued pretty forcefully that the $1,000 price prediction is, mathematically impossible.
Okay, how so?
The reasoning is quite simple, actually. XRP has a total supply of 100 billion tokens, fixed supply. So if each token was worth $1,000, you multiply that out. You get an astronomical market capitalization, $100 trillion.
$100 trillion. Okay. And just for context, what's market cap again?
Good point. So market cap is simply the total value of all the tokens currently in circulation. Price times circulating supply. It basically tells you what the entire asset is worth at that specific price.
Got it. So $100 trillion, how does that stack up?
Well, this is where it gets really eye-opening. To put that $100 trillion figure into perspective for you, The entire global GDP, according to World Bank estimates for 2024, is around $111.33 trillion.
Wait, say that again? $111 trillion for the whole world.
Roughly, yes.
Yeah.
So you're talking about XRP's valuation nearly equaling the entire world's economic output for a year.
Wow, that's a staggering comparison. That definitely forces a reality check, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And this community voice added to the skepticism, basically arguing that market demand for XRP is just nowhere near sufficient to push the price that high.
Not enough buyers, essentially.
Not enough capital flowing in to support that price, yeah. They even argued that reaching a much more modest $10 per XRP, which would mean a $1 trillion market cap, still less than Bitcoin's today, is likely to take years.
So even $10 is seen as a long shot in the near term by some.
According to this perspective, yes. It raises that really important question. Can the market realistically absorb that kind of value? Especially when you compare it to global economic indicators, the sheer scale of the world economy. Where does $100 trillion come from for one asset?
That definitely makes you pause and think about the practicalities. The
Yeah.
numbers become almost hard to get your head around when you put them against global GDP.
Exactly.
It really brings home the immense scale required for a price like $1,000.
That's right. It highlights a fundamental idea. For an asset's value to go that high, you need a matching amount of capital flowing in, driven by massive, sustained demand.
Right.
And the argument against the $1,000 basically says that the current and even foreseeable demand for XRP just doesn't align with that kind of market size.
Okay, so a pretty strong mathematical case against it.
Yeah.
But as often happens in crypto, the story doesn't quite end there, does it?
No. It gets more nuanced.
This seemingly solid mathematical barrier, it actually faced an interesting counterargument. Some other community members pushed back. They argued that market cap isn't always this strict, linear barrier to price.
That's a fascinating reframe, yeah. The alternative perspective suggests that an asset doesn't necessarily need $100 trillion in new money flowing in to reach a $100 trillion valuation.
How does that work?
Well, they used an analogy. Think about commodities like oil.
Okay.
Oil can have a massive market value, sometimes estimated as high as, say, $300 trillion. But that information isn't usually tracked or viewed in the same way as a strict market cap for a stock or a crypto token.
Why not?
Because it's a commodity, it has widespread utility, it's consumed daily. Its total market value is maybe a more fluid concept reflecting global trade flows and consumption,
Yeah.
not just a fixed supply times a single price point like a crypto asset.
Okay, so it's not quite apples to apples.
Exactly. The argument here is that maybe market cap is a bit of a misnomer, or at least an incomplete picture, for certain assets, particularly ones with high utility, maybe commodity-like characteristics. It suggests a different way of thinking about how value accumulates and is shown.
That's a powerful analogy. So what this whole discussion really brings up isn't just like a numbers fight, but a fundamental question. Are we using maybe outdated metrics for these new digital assets? Is it possible that understanding XRP's value isn't just simple math, but needs us to rethink how demand itself works for an asset with its kind of proposed utility?
You've articulated the core of that counter-argument really well there. It definitely pushes us to consider if traditional metrics fully capture the dynamics here.
But did the original skeptic respond to that?
They did. They basically reaffirmed that, okay, while market cap might not be a direct dollar-for-dollar requirement of new money coming in,
Right.
it still fundamentally reflects the asset's overall size, and crucially, it reflects the demand needed to sustain such a price.
So the demand point remains key.
Absolutely. Ultimately, however you define the metric, the underlying point stands. Reaching such a huge valuation would need truly substantial sustained demand for XRP, whether that's new capital or a massive shift in how existing capital is used and valued.
That's an important distinction, isn't it? New money versus shifting capital. It brings us back to that core question of demand and how we even define value in this new economy. It's clear there are different ways to look at these economic ideas when you apply them to something new like XRP.
Exactly. It forces a more nuanced conversation, moving beyond just the arithmetic to think about the nature of the asset itself, its intended use. But even with those nuances, the scale of demand are needed for a $1,000 XRP price. It remains undeniably immense.
Okay, so what we've heard is this whole spectrum, from the huge vision of a global financial revolution to the stark math that questions those huge valuations, and then this really nuanced debate about how we should even measure the market's capacity for these new kinds of assets. It's definitely complex. Now, let's ground ourselves back in today's reality. As we record this, XRP is trading around, what, $2.85?
Roughly.
And it's actually seen about an 8.31% decline over the last week. So just to state the obvious, for it to reach that $1,000 mark we've been discussing,
Yeah.
it would need a phenomenal, get this, 34,987% increase from its current price.
Wow. 35,000% roughly.
Yeah, that's a huge, huge leap by any standard. And, it's worth noting, XRP isn't alone in these discussions. Other cryptos like Bitcoin, Shiba Inu, they have their own ongoing, very active price prediction debates.
Sure.
We even saw headlines recently about Kanye West's YZY coin having a massive crash right after launch.
Yeah.
It's a very dynamic landscape out there.
That current landscape certainly underscores the volatility, doesn't it? And the long road ahead for any asset aiming for such an ambitious target. It also highlights that these discussions, especially the really optimistic ones, often involve a very long-term view. Some commentators, even those bullish on $1,000 XRP, have suggested maybe a 10-year timeline for it to potentially reach that level.
10 years, okay.
Which really underscores that even the most optimistic scenarios involve a significant waiting period and, critically, substantial development in its actual adoption and utility.
It needs to prove itself in the real world.
Exactly. This whole discussion around XRP's future, it keeps coming up, often tied to that speculated role in global finance. It's really a testament to the persistent belief in its utility, but it's also, a call for patience and realism in is an incredibly dynamic market.
Absolutely. So we've explored the grand ambitions for XRP, the sort of mathematical realities that maybe temper those expectations, and then these nuanced arguments about how we even define market value for digital assets. It's a complex and genuinely exciting space, isn't it?
It really is, full of passionate viewpoints and fascinating economic questions.
It really makes you think about how we value innovation, especially something potentially disruptive.
And perhaps this raises an important question for you, the listener, to ponder. Beyond just the numbers, how much does the narrative, the story, the community belief, how much does that truly influence a digital asset's trajectory?
Good question.
And alongside that, what role should fundamental utility, the actual use case, play in your own assessment of its potential?
That's a great thought to leave everyone with, because it reminds us these discussions are about more than charts and figures. They're about vision, belief, and ultimately real-world application too.
Precisely.
Well, thank you for letting us guide you through this really fascinating exploration today. We hope this has given you a clearer picture and some valuable insights to consider for your own understanding of these incredible digital assets.